seismic crisis had a volcanic or purely tectonic origin, I lean towards the former explanation, with it best being explained by the draining of magma from a portion of the Santorini volcano's deeper magma reservoir into a lengthy dike which propagated northeastwards. And yet, seismic activity peaked on February 6. No addition expansion of the magma dike was detected after February 11, and after that, the rate and magnitude of earthquakes progressively decreased. In fact, the daily number of these events seemingly halved about once every 18 to 21 days after February 16, dropping from around 200 on that day to 100 on March 6, 50-ish on March 21, and 25 on April 14. If this pattern holds, and there is no reason to see why it won't, by July 20 less than one earthquake will likely be striking every day, and it will probably be too small to feel, let alone cause damage. This drop becomes all the more telling when you solely focus on the daily number of magnitude 4 or larger earthquakes which under very specific circumstances can cause negligible to very minor damage. With this decline, it is not a surprise that most residents have rightfully returned to Santorini, and on March 24, the first cruise ship in more than a month docked on the island, bringing tourists. Everything is seemingly returning to normal. In fact, this story seemingly parallels three other episodes of volcanic unrest, one at the Terceira volcano in the Azores, and two at Ethiopia's Fentale and Dauphin volcanoes. Similar sequences in a scientific community I am in that discusses volcanoes and general geology. We sort of have an inside joke that nothing ever happens, even if there is a hint that something might. And, given how the vast majority of magmatic intrusions fail to produce volcanic eruptions on the surface, this in-joke of a line actually is fairly accurate the vast majority of the time. In fact, here is a quick list of vaguely similar unrest episodes at world volcanoes since the decade of the 2020s began. Only 2 of these 11 events resulted in eruptions, both of which were due to the same deep magma supply in Iceland. In other words, this decline was always the most likely outcome, and in my opinion, Santorini and its surrounding islands are once again open for business and safe to travel to. However, that does not exclude the potential to occasionally feel a light earthquake, especially since it has been 55 days without a magnitude 4.5 or larger quake striking. In essence, the current episode of unrest at the Santorini volcano is probably over. Now, I do want to note that since April 10 that a cluster of recent cluster earthquakes have struck between the eastern end of Santorini and the western end of Anafi Island. While these earthquakes do not seemingly align with the presence of known regional faults, I interpret these events to still be purely tectonic in origin, just being triggered by ground deformation related to the now solidifying magma dike intrusion northeast of Santorini Island. Today's video was not made to signal any new worrying seismic or volcanic unrest at Santorini, but rather give everyone an update on the declining situation since I have not discussed this complex in more than a month after giving several updates a week for a time. As a final note, I would like to thank my new YouTube channel member T. Parrish for supporting my work.